Hello everybody and welcome to Trackalicious. We are doing a fun Le Mans Ultimate stream tonight to close out the season here in the springtime at the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans. I am Kuja Terekov. I will be commentating you along this journey of a race for 60 minutes we have ahead of us around the famous Circuit de la Sarthe circuit. We had a huge donation from One Bigly. Thank you very much for doing that before the stream even started. So big thank you to the support there, One Bigly. Always love to see you popping around in the chat, driving around too. Big shout out to you, my friend. Thank you for supporting us here at Trackalicious. Qualifying is underway, I should say, at the Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans. So let's head to the track and see what the action is all about. Currently out on track, George Elmer trying to get that qualifying lap done very early in the session still. So lots of time for these GT3s to set their fastest laps in the qualifying session. We do have 20 minutes available, but it is split into the two categories, the hypercars and the GT3s. First up, in the first 10 minutes, we have the GT3s going around for the 8.467 mile lap around Le Mans. An absolutely long lap here. It's going to be just over 4 minutes for the GT3s, a little under 3 minutes and 30 seconds for the hypercars, but nonetheless still a very long lap for the drivers to negotiate. 38 corners for them to memorize as well. Lots of straights down public roads. This is a prime example of that. George Elmer going down the Mulsanne straight. Lots of road markings still visible out on track before he enters the Mulsanne corner, the hairpin at the end of the long straight. And this road here is still a public road, so this whole back section of the track is all public roads. Just the first few corners, the S's, and then as the drivers go through Tête Rouge, they enter on to the public roadway section and go all the way through it until they enter the Ford chicanes at the end of the lap. Luciano Ichazzo is just up ahead of the Fords entering the straight after Mulsanne before Indianapolis. Ichazzo here down the final sector. He goes just warming up the tires before going through the Ford chicane to start his first qualifying lap attempt. An absolutely long lap, as we mentioned, nearly 5 minutes or 4 minutes through the qualifying session, and just now the first LMGT3 driver is across the line to start their qualifying lap. Andre Lloyd in the Ferrari, or excuse me, this is George Elmer approaching that final sector that we just saw Andre Lloyd enter for him to set up his flying lap attempt. Andre Lloyd, though, doing the same, crossing the line in his 55 Vista AF Corsa Ferrari. First corner, pretty quick right-hander. I'm not quite sure if it's flat in the LMGT3s. It's flat in some of the hypercars, but nonetheless the GT3 here of Andre Lloyd handling the Dunlop curve and the Dunlop chicane very well before entering down the hill through the S's at Le Mans. Very quick section of the track. Through the right-hander he goes, charging down that little bit of a crest of a hill before the very quick Tête Rouge before they enter onto the Mulsanne straight. On full throttle for 85% of the lap at Le Mans, and 50% of it is down the Mulsanne straight alone. Down this first part before the Daytona chicane, which Andre Lloyd will be braking for any time now, just before the 100-meter brake board on the left-hand side up on the barriers there. Down on the power, very well also is Andre Lloyd as he exits that Daytona chicane, wants to carry as much speed as possible to use it down the flat straight sections here at Le Mans, the second section of the Mulsanne straight before the Michelin chicane coming up. It is different than the first one. You start with a left-hander as opposed to the Daytona chicane, which you start with a right-hander, braking right around that 100-meter board once again, and exits very cleanly on the power before going down the rest of the Mulsanne straight before the Mulsanne hairpin at the end of it. It's absolutely crucial to get the exits right, as these entries into the chicanes and the Mulsanne hairpin here are absolutely wonderful overtaking opportunities, and you don't want to be caught flat-footed exiting either of them while on track with other drivers, as that will certainly cause a couple of overtaking opportunities for sure. Robert Almeida in the Manthey Porsche, just up the road from Andre Lloyd in the number 92, goes through Indianapolis and approaching the Arnage right hand, very slow corner, one of the slowest on the track, before he blasts through the Porsche sign to enter the Porsche curves. Riding with the splitter now of the Porsche. See just how well he can navigate through the Porsche curves. Very, very quick section of the track. A right-hander to start things off, and then a left-hander with the wall approaching very quickly on the exit. Certainly don't want to find yourself in that, as that might cause plenty of suspension damage to the right-hand side of the car, and might be forcing the cars back to the pits for repairs. Just running a little bit wide on the exit of the Corvette chicane, or the Corvette curves, I should say. Now approaching the final end part of the track, the Ford chicanes. A very quick right, or a left then right, and then a much slower left hand and then right hand, protected heavily by sausage curbs and track limits on the left hand side, as Robert Almeida goes to the line, and it's good enough for third position at the moment. Ichazzo set a time for provisional pole of a 4:03.8 currently on the board from him, as Andre Lloyd now takes third place, with Gelson Cruz in the 92 Porsche as well in second place, about 2.1 seconds off of that provisional pole time set by Ichazzo for the LMGT3s. One Bigley now up to the line in the first of the two Fords. The two 88s were running on track together, and Elmer puts it up into the second row of the grid in third position for the time being. And one Bigley here with that donation before the stream even started in the Proton Racing Ford, negotiating the Ford chicanes pretty well. A bit bumpy on the exit, kicking up a few sparks, but he is on the board about 20 seconds off the pace. May have had a mistake somewhere during the lap, but nonetheless a valid lap is on the board from the number 88 driver, one Bigley. The 777 of Gomez Barra still yet to sell it a valid lap, currently on an out lap, and the Aston Martin teammate here of Luciano Ichazzo holds that provisional pole time for the time being, goes through the Michelin chicane as he takes the long, flat-out drive to the Mulsanne hairpin. Porsche coming up quickly behind. I believe that's Cruz. Hansen in the 91 Porsche goes second place, 2.031 seconds off of pole position. And the times between the two Porsches are very minimal between Hansen and Cruz. Elmer and Lloyd are separated by about a tenth as well. Actually, less than that, about half a tenth. And then Almeida about 0.8 off of the time set by the Ferrari in fifth place, and one Bigley on the board with a valid lap currently. This is Javier Gomez Beira. Hypercar cars in front, punching a bit of a slipstream in front as the 10-minute mark has passed us. So those drivers out on a valid lap in the GT3s are able to complete it, with the hypercars going out for their warm-up laps at the moment. Might catch up to a couple of the drivers in front, but will hopefully be able to avoid any further carnage. Luciano Ichazzo, the first across the line, and has the provisional pole time at the moment. Currently up on his best time through Sector 1. Sector 2, he should have technically passed already. So just a bit of a glitch there from our software. Also saying he's out on an outlap, which I don't think is correct. But nonetheless, the 4:03.388 is the time to beat from Luciano Ichazzo. Running a little bit wide, might just have stayed within the track limit boundaries there at the exit of the Corvette curves before the braking zone, and he is going to return to the pits. Not able to improve on his lap. He is just gonna return on back. Gelson Cruz able to improve on his times throughout the lap, and right as we cut to him, oversteers out of the final Ford chicane and goes into the wall. Unfortunately for him, that is going to be his qualifying session done there. Andre Lloyd, trying to improve in the Ferrari, was up on his personal best in the first sector, a little bit slower through that second part, but the third sector is the longest. Lots of curves through there as well. And Andre Lloyd now up to the line, looking to improve from 5th place. How high can he go? He slots the Ferrari into the top 3 with a 4:05.518. George Elmer currently in the pits. Same with Robert Almeida. Javier Gomez Beira has some room for improvement. Not sure what those deltas are being compared to, since he doesn't have a lap on the board yet, but he is up on something, and 4:03.388 is the time to beat on the board. Currently taken by the number 27 Aston Martin, and here the 777 looking to change things up, going through the Porsche curves, entering the Corvette curves, and now just one more sector to go. The Ford chicanes. One quick braking zone for the first part, and then another braking zone for the second part. Hello, Alex Hansen. Well done. Currently have second position at the moment. Let's see if Javier can change things as he comes to the line in the Aston Martin, and he slots into 7th place for the time being. Thank you, Alex. We'll try our best. Hopefully all the software sticks well with us and provides us with a quality working experience here tonight. So that is the qualifying for the GT3s complete. Ichazzo is on pole position for them. Alex Hansen in second. Andre Lloyd in third. Gelson Cruz is in 4th place. George Elmer in 5th. In 6th is Robert Almeida. And Gomez Beira on that final flying lap attempt, able to get 7th place, taken away from one Bigley, who will start from 8th place. And now it is on to the hypercars. 3 Ferraris in the grid. The 51 driven by Jake Terrell, the 50 driven by Spencer Brown, and the 83 driven by Jace Wright. Chris Barnes is in the Hertz Team Jota Porsche, number 12, that gold, white, red machine. We wanted to look out for the race winner at Fuji from 2 races ago, with pulling off that incredible fuel-saving strategy to get that Porsche across the line to the end. Jace Wright in that yellow AF Corsa, number 83. Blasting down the back straight here, hoping to get within a pretty good slipstream of the Ferrari in front of Jake Terrell. And yeah, only four hypercars. Good and bad. Yeah, we could have more, we could have less. It could be better, could be worse. I'm sure we will have a much more consistent turnout for the next championship planned for the summer. Stick around and make sure to keep up to date with all of that to come in the Discord, as we have the polls for what race length currently going in the Discord chat, so make sure to vote on those as well to make sure we get the best racing experience for everybody involved. Currently, we've got a 60-minute race ahead of us, but the qualifying session still needs to be completed. The GT3s are done, and now it is up to the hypercars to get their flying laps on the board. Jake Terrell will be the first to cross the line, just in front of Jace Wright. Let's see what time will be the provisional pole for the hypercars, with Jake Terrell coming up to the line. It's a 3:28.0. Jace Wright up to the line, able to improve on that time. It's a 1:27.634, and Spencer Brown immediately topples the time as well, getting into the 26s, a 26.983 from the number 50 Ferrari, and Chris Barnes, the fourth and final hypercar, out on track to try and change the order of the top three Ferraris. They are pretty close, within a second of each other there, and it looks like Chris Barnes is just lifting and coasting a little bit into the final corners here, maybe just saving a bit of battery and fuel before his flying lap attempt. A 3:26.983 will be the time to chase down for Chris Barnes as he comes up to the line. A valid lap is on the board, 14.38 seconds off of the pole position time, though, and he will certainly look to improve that time, as he has time for just one more qualifying lap. Looking on from the rear end of Spencer Brown's Ferrari, providing us a good peek of where he's been on the track, but not quite where he is going up ahead. Currently, the provisional pole sitter, a 3:26.983 on the board from the 50 Ferrari AF Corsa. He is the third of the Ferraris out on track, with Jake Terrell being in front, or I should say just the first Ferrari to cross the line to finish their flying lap attempt, and he is up in the first sector, setting a best overall time, improving in the second sector, but a little bit off of the purple pace set by Spencer Brown. If it's a purple sector, that means it is an overall session best. If it is green, it means it's a personal best, and it looks like Spencer Brown in the background had an oversteer moment. Not sure if he was able to avoid the wall there. Doesn't look like there's any damage on the front end of the Ferrari, but that will certainly cost him some lap time. And Jace Wright also setting a really good first sector, but down in sector 2. Let's see if he can improve that through sector 3. Again, riding with the rear end, seeing where we've been in the AF Corsa Ferrari. Not quite the most intuitive camera system here from LMU, but we will make it work, as Jace Wright, going through the Porsche curves, carrying a lot of speed, lots of downforce in those hypercars, being able to carry so much momentum, so much air going over that body as it just sticks to the tarmac here, running just a little bit wide, hopefully keeping it within the track limits there. Spencer Brown is back in the pits, but can Jake Terrell do anything to change the positioning of the Ferrari? Spencer Brown will not be able to improve on his lap. The checkered flag is out. Terrell takes provisional pole with Jace Wright not too far off in the background. Can Jace Wright take it away? No, he cannot. Not able to improve on that final lap attempt, and it's now just up to Chris Barnes in the Hertz Team Jota Porsche to change the order of the Ferraris in the top 3. Does have a valid lap on the board, just so close to the wall there through the Porsche curves, entering the Corvette corners before the flat-out chicane on the exit, keeping it well within track limits. Has some good sector times on the board. What can the Porsche do? Just the Ford chicanes left to go, carrying a lot of speed, a lot of momentum, hopping the curbs in the first part. Brakes red hot, sliding it on exit, but he keeps it under control up to the line. Where can the Porsche go? It splits Spencer Brown and Jace Wright and gets into 3rd place. That is the qualifying session completed here at Le Mans. The race will be underway shortly as the drivers get out onto the track to start their formation lap. The race director there telling our drivers to do just that. And there we see the starting order on the left-hand side of the grid. Jake Terrell will start from pole position in the hypercars. Spencer Brown in 2nd place, Chris Barnes in 3rd, and Jace Wright in 4th place. The times were very, very close between those 4, so it'll be very interesting to see what those hypercars will be able to do throughout the race here this evening around Le Mans. In the GT3s, Luciano Icazzo qualifying on pole position in the 27 Aston Martin. Alex Hansen in 2nd place in the Porsche. Andre Lloyd in 3rd. Gelson Cruz in the Porsche in 4th place. George Elmer lines up in 5th. Robert Almeida will be in 6th. Gomez Beira in the 777 lines up in 7th. And One Bigley in the 88 will line up in 8th place. The 777 there in 7th and the 88 in 8th. Lots of number matching going on there towards the back of the grid. But the times are very close between the GT3 drivers as well. Icazzo had a pretty good lead over Alex Hansen through the majority of the lap, but that is qualifying pace, and race pace is completely separate. Short formation lap, the drivers getting started through the Porsche curves. The hypercars will lead the field, and the GT3s will be not too far off behind. We've got a 2x fuel usage in the race as well, so there might be 2 fuel stops needed for the drivers through the 60-minute race we have ahead of us. But like, if Chris Barnes is able to pull off the same strategy that he did around Fuji and just save fuel and just pull off the 1 stop, he might come out with the race win here this evening, starting in 3rd place. The GT3s always provide some super close racing between all the different manufacturers that are on the grid, and Alex Hansen's still in the pits. Hopefully he's able to return in time to get onto the grid, and it doesn't look like he was able to do so. So Alex Hansen with a pit lane start here this evening. So the formation lap here underway. The hypercars leading the way. Spencer Brown in 2nd place, but he will look to change things very quickly throughout the race. Wants to get a good jump at the beginning, and of course managing the battery and managing the fuel will be on the driver's mind throughout their venture around this historic Circuit de la Sarthe. 38 corners a lap, 8.47 miles for each lap as well. 85% at full throttle. And that is just one thing for the drivers to negotiate. Tire strategies already looking alternating with the reds on the left side of the Ferrari and the white walls on the right. of Spencer Brown, so maybe tire strategy might come into play. Rounding out the Ford chicane, the hypercars will come to the line first. The green flag will release the drivers, and the green flag waves. Spencer Brown getting a pretty decent start. The 4 hypercars all tuck in a row, and Spencer Brown looking to the inside to take the lead away from Jake Terrell, and he takes it. But Jake Terrell has the inside into the Dunlop chicane, but the inside turns into the outside, and there's no room to do the switch. Chris Barnes looking to take advantage, though, and now he has the inside going through the S's, and the Porsche goes up into second place. Jake Terrell dropping 2 places on the opening, or in the opening sector, I should say. And now it is a blast down the Mulsanne Straight for the hypercars. And now here, a good getaway from the GT3s. Ichazzo maintains his lead from pole position, but Cruz is under pressure from Lloyd as they go down the Mulsanne Straight for the first time. Ferrari has the slipstream very close to the bumper, will pull out at any moment here. Here he goes. He's going to have the inside for the first part of the Daytona chicane. Might have just gotten a much better exit than the Porsche coming out of Tete Rouge. And now a long blast to the braking zone. Can the Porsche get it done? Can the Ferrari sweep around the outside? The Porsche bumping the Ferrari a little bit off track, and this gives the advantage to Almeida behind, who has made a great start in the 92 Porsche. The 2 teammates battling it out on track here. Ichazzo running a bit away in the distance as these cars are battling. Cruz in front. Almeida gets the overtake done, and now he is going to look to overtake his Monti Racing teammate. They're going to go side by side. A bit of contact in the braking zone. The 2 Porsches are side by side going through the Michelin chicane. Who will come out on top? Cruz forced to go to the outside, and Andre Lloyd will certainly look to pick up the scraps. No room. A Porsche barrier being formed in front. Andre Lloyd cannot go anywhere. Almeida moves up into second place. Cruz is in third. That's George Elmer in the 88 Ford trying to take advantage as well. They're nearly 4 wide going into the braking zone, but they form a line, and it remains Almeida in front of Cruz, in front of Lloyd, and he has Elmer, Gomez Beira, Bigley, and Hansen behind after making the pit lane start. Chris Barnes getting a great start as well in the Porsche, moving up a position, and Jake Terrell has lost the position to Jace Wright as well, going from first to fourth in the opening lap. Unfortunately, is Jake Terrell in the 51 Ferrari, but he might be on a fuel-saving strategy, so we will have to just wait and see how that plays out towards the end of the race. But Spencer Brown out in the lead in the 50 Ferrari AF Corsa, has a pretty sizable lead of 1.4 seconds over Chris Barnes. There's a yellow flag behind. There's some changes for position. It looks like Almeida has dropped back a little bit, and hopefully he will be able to recover as he gets the Porsche going once again. I believe that's exiting Arnage. Robert Almeida back in the race, but unfortunately losing a few positions. That will benefit. Oh, Cruz and Almeida both dropping the position. So the 2 Porsches who were running second and third come into contact. And the 55 of Andre Lloyd slides into second place now of the GT3 category. Gomez Beira with a great start as well, all up in a podium position already, getting through George Elmer, and one Bigley not too far behind as well, and one Bigley immediately going into the pits. George Elmer looking to take that podium position away from Javier Gomez Beira. Aston Martin versus Ford. Haven't had that legendary battle yet around Le Mans in recent history, but these two will be looking to change that, as George Elmer will certainly try to pick up the slipstream from the Aston Martin in front, going down the Mulsanne Straights. More yellow flags in the background there. Cruz able to get by one bigly as he enters the pit lane. Robert Almeida also entering the pits. Maybe a bit of damage picked up on the Porsche after that a little bit of a spin, which we may have picked up. But now the Mustang going down the Mulsanne straight already has a great speed advantage over the Aston Martin, pulls to the inside before the straight can even be thought of, or before the straight can even be done. Going to the braking zone, will the Ford pull into the racing line? Does he have that advantage already? Doesn't quite do it yet, but he does have the position. Textbook move done from George Elmer, moves up into a podium position. Now has Andre Lloyd in front in the Ferrari to chase down, but it is not over yet, of course, as now Gomez Beira has that slipstream advantage. Alex Hansen with a good start as well from the pit lane, already up into 5th place and looking to gain the positions on the cars in front. He has the slipstream as well. Can Gomez Beira get the move done to the inside? It doesn't look like he does. He pulls out at the last moment though and goes through, and great move on the brakes from the Aston Martin, gets the move done on the Ford, and now the Porsche of Alex Hansen will look to do the same. Rear wing of the Ford showing us just how close the Porsche of Alex Hansen is getting before the braking zone. He pulls to the inside to try and get the braking zone, but he thinks the better of it and just pulls back and will try to line him up for the braking zone of Indianapolis. George Elmer dipping a wheel into the gravel on the exit of Mulsanne, and that will not help his chances of protecting this position. Gomez Beira diving to the inside, doesn't want to give the slipstream to the Ford as he wants to protect 4th place from Alex Hansen, but he himself is looking pretty racy and wants to get that podium position back from Gomez Beira. Can he do it through Indianapolis? The Porsche looking really aggressive on the brakes. The Ford leaving a bit of a gap on the inside, but Alex Hansen not quite close enough to pull that move off just yet. Through Arnage, the Ford was thinking about lining up a move, but now cutting himself a little bit short on the exit. The Porsche might have the advantage going through the Porsche curves. A good straight here before the curvy section. Lots of downforce needed to go through this part of the track fast, and it takes a lot of skill to be able to follow a car in front with that dirty air coming off of the spoiler and the splitter of the cars in front. More of a wing than a spoiler, I should say. But nonetheless, the Aston Martin leading the way from George Elmer, from Alex Hansen in this battle for the final podium position. Aston Martin versus Ford versus Porsche. And that is Gelson Cruz running wide on the exit. And he will try to gain back the places lost as he currently sits just outside the top 5 and will look to get involved in this battle for the podium any minute here. Pretty commanding lead here for Spencer Brown in the Ferrari A. Of course, right as we tune to him, a bit of an oversteering moment as he is going through the Michelin chicane. Chris Barnes about 4 seconds behind in the Porsche. Jake Terrell and Jace Wright having a battle for the final podium position. Jake Terrell able to get that position after Jace Wright was momentarily through in 3rd, but the slipstream now goes the advantage to the yellow AF Corsa of Jace Wright. Will he try a move here into the braking zone of Mulsanne? Not quite thinking the better of it this time around, as they are only 10 minutes into the race. Still plenty of time left to go, I should say. Pit stops still will be very, very crucial in deciding who will come out on top in this race. Jake Terrell trying to defend, but it looks like Jace Wright has a great speed advantage. Will he try it into Indianapolis? Again, just lifting off a little bit early. Doesn't want to create any chaos this early on in the race, and the hypercars not having ABS, it is very difficult to send a late lunge without locking up the brakes and ruining the tires, flat spotting them, causing a bunch of jitters for the driver, and there's a lot of straights that will cause those jitters. Good battle here between the two Ferraris for the final podium position. Jake Terrell, after taking pole position, dropped back into 4th place after the opening lap, but he is able to recover back into a podium position. Jace Wright, though, will try to change things up in that yellow Ferrari. Not too far behind, just about a second separating these two as they go through the Porsche and Corvette curves. Very difficult to stay close through that section. Lots of downforce required. You want to have as much clean air as possible going through there, and Jace Wright perhaps just opening that gap a little bit and giving him a bit of clean air before he can really push on through the Mulsanne straights. Andre Lloyd has run away from the battle behind. George Elmer gets the podium position from Gomez Beira, and now the Ford will look to defend the podium positions. Alex Hansen, unfortunately, dropping back to 6th place, a little bit further back from this group. He was right in that mix. Not sure if there was an incident or something self-inflicted, but nonetheless, the Aston and the Ford are now free to battle for the final podium position in the LMGT3 category. And now the Aston's going to try to sweep to the inside, but the Ford has the speed advantage. Once the Aston pulled out of that slipstream, all of the speed was gone as the air just stopping the momentum of the Aston Martin. Gelson Cruz in the Porsche is getting pretty close to this battle, and he will certainly look to try to make up some places. After dropping back down the order from the beginning, still plenty of race to go here. Perhaps just waiting for the right moment to attack in the number 92 Porsche. As we mentioned, through these curvy sections, very difficult to follow the cars in front. The sim does a pretty good job of really dictating that clean air is pretty crucial. Very difficult in the GT3s to follow, and it's increased even more to a dramatic level in the hypercars as their speed is a lot more, or a lot higher, and a lot more dependent on that downforce through those curvy bits. George Elmer dives into the pits. Cruz thinking about a move to the inside, trying to throw off Gomez Beira, but he is not thinking about the move behind at all. Still maintains 3rd place as George Elmer goes into the pits. Jace Wright in the yellow Ferrari back through Jake Terrell, and he now occupies that final podium position. And these two in the battle in the back of the hypercars, but still not that far off from Chris Barnes and Spencer Brown in front. So any little mistake in front can still be pretty costly for the top two in Spencer Brown and Chris Barnes. So Jake Terrell and Jace Wright, while they are having this fun little battle, do want to put in some clean lap times to try and stay within a good time, or stay within a good gap in front to Chris Barnes and Spencer Brown. We'll see just how far and how many laps these hypercars go before. Oh, and Jake Terrell goes to the inside of the Porsche curves. Fantastic move! Right as the fried egg is rating with a party of 10. Thank goodness you guys were able to see that move. Jake Terrell to the inside. Fantastic move on Jace Wright through the Porsche curves in his Ferrari AF Corsa, back on a podium position. Gelson Cruz now right on the tail of the Aston Martin, going through the Mulsanne straight as they go through the Michelin chicane. The crew's really looking to pounce. The Aston Martin running a little bit deep. Might pick up a slight track limit violation there. Already trying to pull away from the slipstream. The Porsche has the inside, pulls back into the slipstream, gets that little bit of an advantage in straight line speed, and will try to use it for the break, or before the braking zone of the Mulsanne hairpin. Will he dive to the inside here? He will. Cruise. The Porsche goes to the inside. The Aston Martin just kind of leaving that door open, seeing the Porsche has the pace there. Might just want to slipstream, going up on the approach to Indianapolis. The Aston using that better exit, using the straight line speed, side by side on the approach. The Aston sweeps in front, and Gelson Cruz has the work to do all over again. The Porsche seems very strong through the braking zone. They're side by side before the braking zone of Indianapolis, but Cruz still behind, and now on the approach to Arnage has the inside line. Very slow corner, very hard braking zone. The Porsche takes the inside and takes the podium from the Aston. Now a bit of breathing room is Gelson Cruz will certainly try to build a bit of breathing room, I should say. Going through the Porsche curves, this is a good spot to do it. A very crucial part of the track to get right as the corners kind of flow from one to the next. And if you get the apex wrong at one, it throws you off for the next. And Gelson Cruz, being the lead car, has that clean air. He's able to nail his racing line down to a T, but the Aston Martin struggling a little bit with that dirty air coming off of the number 92, taking that final podium place away through the Arnage braking zone. Gelson Cruz will start another lap here as the next podium sitter. Spencer Brown still in front of the hypercar race in the number 50 Ferrari AF Corsa. 3.1 seconds is the gap to Chris Barnes. That gap has come down just a little bit. It was right around that 4.5 second mark, closing it down by about a second in the Porsche. That hurts Team Jota. Now Spencer Brown going into the pit lane about 18 minutes into the contest. He will slow his Ferrari down to 60 kilometers per hour before taking a service in the pit lane. That releases the Hertz Team Jota Porsche of Chris Barnes, I should say, into the lead of the hypercar race, the overall lead as well. The number 12 glowing red brakes on the front of that Porsche. The gold color, very, very prominent in this lighting. I do like how the gold looks with the white and the red there. Of course, the Hertz Team Jota now running the Cadillac for this year in the WEC. So we no longer have this gold and red Porsche to look at in the modern day, but still a lovely sight to see is this gold machine. One of the first privateer hypercar, or I should say the first privateer hypercar winner. I believe they won the 6 Hours of Spa last year to be the first private hypercar team to win the overall classification of a WEC race. Last year, I believe one of the Hertz Team Jotas was able to pull off that feat as well, and the 83 Ferrari AF Corsa was able to do that at the 6 hours around Coda to become the second private entry to win the overall classification race. And speaking of that 83 AF Corsa, Jace Wright taking back the podium position, and this is a fight of the centuries between these two cars. The 51 of Terrell and the number 83 of Jace Wright continuing this epic battle that they have been going at for the past 20 minutes or so. Jake Terrell able to take third place away with a fantastic move as he runs a little bit wide at the Mulsanne hairpin, dipping the left-hand side into the gravel, not helping his grip levels as they try to approach the braking zone at Indianapolis. One of the better overtaking opportunities here after blasting down the straightaway. A very fast right-hand corner before the braking zone here at Indianapolis. Jace Wright negotiating that complex just fine. Has a good gap behind so that Jake Terrell can't quite send a move down the inside of Arnage. A little bit wiggly on the exit though, as they both run over the curbs there. Pretty sizable gap to Spencer Barnes, and there is a yellow flag out on track. Not quite sure why these two slowed down the way they did. They are now bumping each other going through the Porsche curves here, and these two are considerably slowing down. Not quite sure what's happening here. Maybe a bit of teamwork, as Jace Wright is perhaps trying to push his fellow teammate back to the pits after he has run out of fuel. That could be the only thing I can presume what's happening, is that the Ferraris are giving each other a little bit of a push to help them back to the pits. And yeah, both of them are entering now. And it looks like the Ferrari was able to fuel save just enough with the help of Jace Wright. So very good sportsmanship from the hypercars, getting themselves back into the pit lane to refuel on that virtual energy. And they're still pushing each other as they go through the pits. And it looks like Jake Terrell will be able to make it into his garage, and Jace Wright is right behind him as these two, and as well as Chris Barnes, will return to the pits to take on more fuel to top off that virtual energy tank as they try to go through the remainder of the race here. Spencer Brown back in the lead of the hypercars after taking his pit stop on the lap before the other hypercars did of Chris Barnes, Jake Terrell, and Jace Wright. Gelson Cruz now in third place of the LMGT3 category. Bit of lapped traffic. Always a crucial thing to manage in a multi-class race, especially between the hypercars and the GT3s, is where and when you overtake the slower cars. And do the slower cars just give you the room to overtake it, or do they force you the long way around? General rule of thumb is that the GT3 should stick to their racing line and make the hypercars complete the overtake. And that is pretty much what we saw there from Gelson Cruz, taking his line out of Tete Rouge and just allowing the Ferrari to sneak to the inside. And same with here, just taking the normal line. The hypercars are significantly faster down the straights than the LMGT3s. Here we can see the number of pit stops all of our drivers have completed. All of the hypercars have completed one pit stop so far. Spencer Brown being the first of those to come in just a little bit earlier, so maybe, just maybe, not gonna be seeing that fuel saving strategy this time around, as there is more than half of the race still remaining. And in the GT3s, just about everybody has completed one pit stop. Almeida is back in the pits, maybe for his second time around after taking on more fuel after coming in a little bit earlier in the race. Ichazzo maintains the overall lead in the GT3s George Elmer moving up into second place. Gelson Cruz recovering to third. Andre Lloyd in the Ferrari, though, has dropped back after being in a good second place position for the majority of that first stint. Now a little bit behind Cruz, and has Javier Gomez-Bera just about 3 seconds behind, and he will certainly try to close that gap to take fourth place away from the Ferrari and perhaps use the speed of the Aston Martin to get into that final podium position. Going through Indianapolis. A little bit wide, though, is Javier Gomez-Bera in the D Station Racing Aston Martin. Ferrari there of Andre Lloyd just passing by. Not too far in front. The gap is certainly closing between the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. And now out in the lead, Ichazo. It looks like Ichazo has made a mistake. Out in the lead of the race. And George Elmer now has the lead, and that car taking a heavy amount of damage through the Porsche curves. Most likely there, Luciano losing the heart of racing team Aston Martin, and he will try to hobble back to the pits and get that Aston Martin serviced while also keeping out of the way of the cars behind. Lucky for him, he is pretty close to the pit lane, doesn't have a lot of the lap left to go. Hopefully he's able to steer his Aston in the correct direction and get it back into his garage to get everything fixed. Andre Lloyd going through, the 777 also going through there as well. Spencer Brown unfortunately DNFing there. Not sure what happened to the Ferrari, as Luciano Ichazo letting the hypercars go through, and now he dives into the pits. It's heavy damage from the pole sitter, now dropping all the way back to 5th place, and that, I believe, is going to be one Bigley going through and taking that top 5 position away from the Aston Martin. Unfortunate there from Spencer Brown. Will be interesting to see, or yeah, just to hear what happened from him there. Back in the pit lane, maybe, just maybe, not able to get that car started up out of the pits. But I believe the Ferrari is one of those that does not start on the battery, and so he should have been able to start and get away. But Spencer Brown, unfortunately, back in the garage in the number 50 Ferrari. So that is going to give Chris Barnes the overall lead in the Hertz Team Jota. Jake Terrell, for the time being, has the position over Jace Wright, and right as we tune into the Ferrari, oh my goodness, lapped cars cutting the track there. That was Andre Lloyd battling with Jace Wright, the yellow hypercar, and the Ferrari LMGT3 getting involved in a bit of side-by-side action through the Daytona chicane as Jake Terrell tries to open up the gap to Jace Wright. Those two have been battling for the majority of the race, and they will look to continue that. A bit of a lockup from the Ferrari on the rear left, and he will certainly look to avoid doing that more than he wants, as that will flat spot the tires, and that will not be a fun experience for him down the straights. My goodness me, I wonder what happened to Luciano there. I can only presume just losing it through the Porsche curves, and there's not a lot of room to recover down to this road section, and the barriers do come up pretty quick, and they are not very soft at all, so any sort of contact with the walls can cause a huge amount of suspension damage and even break some engine components, which are absolutely crucial for getting around Le Mans quickly. So George Elmer has the lead in the LMGT3s, has a very sizable gap to Gelson Cruz. It's 18.8 seconds for the time being. Andre Lloyd moving up to that final podium position. The gap just opening up to Gomez-Bera, and one Bigley will look to move up further into the top 5 as the 288 Fords are occupying 1st and 5th place at the moment. Why is there so little prototypes? I think just this season, some people were trying out the prototypes and they didn't like them, so they switched to the GT3s. I think for next season, it's going to be a much more rigid structure where you stick to the car that you race win. So I think for next season, we should have much higher turnout of the hypercars and the GT3s as well. It was pretty full a bit earlier in Fuji, I do believe. I think we had 9 hypercars and 13 GT3s. So it does get pretty full. The 2 hypercars, though, trying to decide who will take 2nd, who will take 3rd. Jace Wright was right on the bumper of Jake Terrell. I was the Alpine. Oh, we're missing you in this race. Yeah, I saw at the beginning you weren't able to join, so sorry to hear, but hopefully we'll see you back for next season. And I agree, yeah, it would be nice to see a couple more hypercars in the mix. And a bit more manufacturers being represented as well, and not just the Ferraris. The Ferrari being a very popular choice of hypercar at the moment. It just seems to be the one that's the most predictable and the easiest to control out of the box. Not too much setup work needed to get the Ferrari to go quickly. And Jace Wright is making his Ferrari go quickly. He is trying to catch up to Jake Terrell, but just pulling back for the time being down the Daytona, or through the Daytona chicane. Down the second part of the Mulsanne straight they go, and maybe Jace Wright is just waiting for the right opportunity. Doesn't want to give Terrell any slipstream advantage to fight back. Fuel saving is a good point as well. That slipstream will certainly help him save a little bit of fuel. Terrell sliding on the exit of the Michelin chicane might give Jace Wright the opportunity to sneak through here. Terrell covers off the inside line, though. The 2 Ferraris very evenly matched on pace through the entirety of the race so far here. Terrell covering off the inside, not going deep. Jace Wright oversteering a little bit, but so does Jake Terrell. Jace Wright has the slipstream advantage over his Ferrari teammate in front, the 51, ahead of the 83 for the time being, but these two have swapped positions for the entirety of the race, so it's just a matter of waiting for the checkered flag to see which one of these 2 Ferraris will end up in front of the other. It's right on board with the Ferrari, just to see what he has to deal with in looking at the Ferrari of Jake Terrell in front. And perhaps from the audio we might get a sneak peek as to whether they are in fact fuel saving or not. And yeah, lifting a lot before the corner entry, nearly cutting through the apex of the corner is Jace Wright here, as he goes through the Porsche curves, approaching the Corvette corners. And yeah, I think you're right there, Swiss Draco. Fuel saving is more than likely the case here. Most likely going to join when the Huracan gets out, and that's my main GT3. And I wish I can drive hypercars better. I just can't trail brake and stuff. Yeah, fair enough. It is a very difficult skill to learn, especially without any ABS on board as well. They are very twitchy, very fast. The battery management is another aspect to consider as well. And the different types of battery management between the two, or between the manufacturers, is also something to consider as well. The GT3s are certainly a bunch of fun in this game, though. I have a bunch of fun in them still. Despite the game being in early access and getting developed still, I hear there's lots of fun stuff going down the pipeline to be released later this month or in the summer or something like that. I can't quite remember when the expected release date was, but yeah, I think should be some... This game definitely shows a lot of promise, as some of the early Sims did as well in early access. ACC, I believe, at the beginning just only had the Nürburgring and the Huracan ST in early access. So that just shows you how much a game can grow from early access into the sim that ACC developed itself into be. Le Mans Ultimate looking to do the same. A very twitchy exit out of the Daytona chicane from Terrell. Jace Wright looking to pounce on the opportunity as he is just gonna fuel save behind the Ferrari in front. Doesn't want to take the opportunity to make the move just yet. He is just gonna dive and or pull in and pull back out, and we're gonna do it all over again after they go through the Michelin chicane and down the last part of the Mulsanne straight. And yeah, great insight from the chat there. 100% the fuel saving strat is underway. George Elmer was in the pits from the lead of the GT3 category, so that gives Gelson Cruz the lead of the GT3s. George Elmer here just exiting the pit lanes, going through the Dunlop chicane in the first part of the lap. Gelson Cruz already on the Mulsanne straight, approaching the braking zone of the Daytona chicane, and he is going through that chicane very well in the Porsche. Gets the power down just fine, and he is going to continue on in the lead of the GT3s. Will certainly have to complete another pit stop as the two-time fuel consumption will not allow these GT3s to run for 2 stints in this race. Yeah, June 10th is the next update for Stumpf. Awesome. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. And I'll be joining the Hypercars next season. Heck yeah! Always good to see the signups happening. I'm sure they will be open soon on SimGrid at any point. And yeah, very, very fun to see what sort of hypercar grid we will have, what sort of car options. I know that the Alpine is also a pretty popular and fun choice as well. And so we will just have to wait and see. That I've driven the Toyota a couple times, and that thing is quite twitchy to control, especially with those setups provided by Le Mans Ultimate. It is very easy to lose the rear end, especially going through the Porsche curves in that Toyota GR010 hybrid. None on the grid this evening. Ferrari, the popular choice of car. Spencer Barnes, though, or sorry, not Spencer, Chris Barnes is in the lead in the number 12 Hertz Team Joda. Was eyeing the BMW, the Big Sniffer. That's a fun name for it. I like that. But yeah, I've driven the BMW a couple times. It's a good one. It's pretty good out of the box. I think at Le Mans it was a little bit more of a handful than at some other tracks, but at Fuji it was really fun. At Fuji, what was the track that? What was the other track that I did in the BMW? Oh my goodness, I am blanking on it right now. Oh, it was Spa. Yeah, Spa was really fun in the BMW. That was it handled it very well. The Cadillac also, a great noise from that V8. And always fun to hear it start up from the front lane. Oh, a lockup from Chris Barnes there going into the Mulsanne hairpin. And that will certainly not help his tires try to survive to the end of the race here. If I get better at braking, or if some assists get in use or get added, I just might go with the Lamborghini. Yeah, fair enough. The Lamborghini also makes a really great noise. V8 out the back of that SC63. And yeah, I agree. I think Barnes, contrary to his strategy in the earlier race in the season, is trying to go for the full push stop. And he will certainly come into the pits one more time, but he has that sizable 50-second advantage over the cars behind. But is that enough for him to maintain the lead after coming out of the pits. And he is on a different tire choice as well, as it looks like. Let's see just what tires all of the drivers are on. Chris Barnes on the mediums, the two Ferraris are on the hards, and all of the LM GT3s are on those medium Goodyear tires. Oh yeah, Chris Barnes certainly knows how to extend a stint. Fuji was a prime example of that, but based on how it looks like he's been pushing for the majority of this contest, you can even ride on board with the Porsche to see if there is some lift and coast going on in the Hertz Team Jota Porsche. And for the time being, it looks like he's just pushing on as fast as he can go. And good management, no snaps, whispering the tires. Just like the real-life IMSA, Porsche is unstoppable. It certainly looks like that is the case in IMSA. In WEC, a slightly different story. Porsche can't quite find their stride in the opening 3 rounds in the WEC so far. All of those wins going to Ferrari, whether it be the 50 or the 51. Most recently, the 51 taking the race win at Spa this past weekend. A little bit of a lift there going into the Daytona chicane from Chris Barnes, but not too much to write home about. Certainly not as much as Jake Terrell and Jace Wright were doing, as Jake Terrell goes into the pits in the 51 Ferrari AF Corsa. It'll be interesting to see just when the leaders of the GT3 categories decide to take their pit stops as well. With Gelson Cruz currently leading the way, but he has only completed 1 pit stop so far. George Elmer leading the way of those who have completed 2, currently in 4th place, and 1 Bigley is in 5th at the time being. Gelson Cruz, Andre Lloyd, and Javier Gomez Beira still need to complete that 2nd pit stop, which they surely will need to go to the end of the race. Almeida in 6th, completing 2 pit stops. Alex Hansen as well, and Ichazo, unfortunately, with a DNF after that pole position, and a great first stint from him. Just a mistake costing him a lot of damage and not able to recover back to the pits. Terrell still in the pits in that 51 Ferrari. 66 seconds is the gap between Barnes and Wright. Gelson Cruz, this answers our question. When were the leaders going to pit? And the lap is this one. Running wide, though. Might pick up a slight track limit violation as he slows it down before the pit limiter line. Andre Lloyd in 2nd place, also entering the pits. Gomez Beira will inherit the lead of the race unless he also dives into the pits, which he does. The D station, Aston Martin, pitting from 3rd place. So where will George Elmer come out in all of this? He is exiting the Corvette curves on the approach to the Ford chicanes. First part much quicker than the second, slowing it down, nearly down to 1st, maybe 2nd gear, depending on the traction limit of the cars and just how everything is geared. But George Elmer crossing the line will take the lead of the GT3 race back as he takes 1st place after the top 3 complete their 2nd pit stops. Gelson Cruz just rolling out on track. Back, I should say now, with Andre Lloyd about the same gap as it was before to the Ferrari behind before they entered the pit lane. And then Gomez Beira as well in the pits will look to close the gap to the podium sitters and get the 777 Aston Martin into a podium position. Chris Barnes in the pit from the overall lead in the Hertz team Jota. A quick splash from him, and Jace Wright in the pits as well. It doesn't look like that fuel saving. Oh, Wright spun it, and Terrell lost it at Porsche. Getting some great insight here. Love to hear it. And yeah, back in the pits is Jace Wright. Jake Terrell looking like a substantial amount of damage taken by the Ferrari in the pit lane, as he was stationary for quite a significant amount of time there. And Jace Wright doing the same in the 83 Ferrari. What happened to Brown? I couldn't tell you. Something, he was in the lead, and then I just saw that he was a DNF, so I really couldn't say what happened there, Omega. Could only presume there was an incident where a substantial amount of damage was picked up on the number 50 Ferrari, and that kind of forced him into that DNF rather than anything else. Like we mentioned, through the Porsche curves, there is not a lot of runoff, so it's very important to get the corners dialed and nailed down. I agree, we do need a second commentator here, so if you fill out an application, welcome to the crew. Be glad to have you here on Tuesdays for Le Mans Ultimate. Of course, with the hype, with how much racing there goes on between the GT3s and the hypercars, there's really 2 races going on in one. It is pretty hard to keep up with all the action here between the 2 classes, as the race leader already getting through this battling pack between Andre Lloyd and Gelson Cruz. It's about 2-second gap between Lloyd and Cruz in the Porsche, currently taking 2nd place, and Lloyd taking that final podium position in the GT3s. Jace Wright out, back on track after his excursion to the pit lane with what we can presume was a fair bit of damage. He was stationary in the pits for a pretty long amount of time relative to Chris Barnes, but not quite as long as Jake Terrell. So yeah, maybe a GT3 at the Porsche curbs. And yeah, a common spot. That curb on the exit of the left-hander, or the wall on the exit of the left-hander, I should say, really comes up quick. These are the curves we are talking about here. Andre Lloyd is approaching this part of the track where it is very tight. On the exit there, 0 runoff. It is curb and then wall. So very, very easy to collide with that wall on the exit and pick up a bunch of side impact damage on the cars. And very tricky to go side by side there, as well as the 2 different classes carry much different cornering speeds through the Porsche curves. And for the majority of the lap as well, this is kind of the one place where it's very difficult for the hypercar to get past. Not a lot of room, lots of sausage curbs protecting the inside there. As Jake Terrell, or excuse me, George Elmer in the 88 Proton Racing out in the lead of the GT3s. 24-second gap to Gelson Cruz, who is trying to maintain any gap he can to the charging Andre Lloyd in the 55 Ferrari. Gomez Beira a bit far back in the 777 to make that late charge onto the podium position. One Bigley has the final podium or final top 5 position, I should say, in the GT3s. Alex Hansen is in 6th. Robert Almeida in 7th place, and Luciano Ichazzo unfortunately having to retire. And George Elmer getting overtaken by the 51 Ferrari of Jake Terrell there. Chris Barnes heavily up the road, a little bit wide though, going through the Daytona chicane. The Porsche not quite managing the entry there, just sliding wide. Maybe a bit of a lockup that we didn't see on the entry there also. But nonetheless, Andre Lloyd is getting closer and closer to the Ferrari in front. And the closer he gets, the more of a slipstream advantage he will have. That gap is closing by the mile. Less than a second now, separating the Porsche from the battling Ferrari behind. The Vista AF Corsa number 55 looking to get on the second step of the podium and take it away from Gelson Cruz. I agree. You don't suck. Just practice. It's all it takes, really. It's hard to just be good at this kind of sim racing deal. It's a lot of hours you need to put in and really dial every bit of the track, whether it be the apex, whether it be the braking, whether it be cornering speed. There is so much little things to improve on, but just one little step at a time will surely get you there, my friend. Yeah, I agree. I think the big fun of racing is just the racing part of it. It doesn't matter where you finish, really, as long as you kind of enjoy the race that you had, you know. Well, hey Omega, we all started somewhere. It's not like everybody just picks up a sim rig and starts there. So I myself also started with a Thrustmaster TMX set just on my desk, or on a little coffee table, actually, just plugged into the Xbox, and it has evolved into what I have now. But I also just still run a single monitor on the sim rig, nothing too fancy. It's a Moza R9, the Moza pedals, so only recently upgraded it just this year, so I was super excited about that. But yeah, I've been loving it so far. It's been fun enjoying it, even despite myself not being that fast as well. It's just super fun being out on track and enjoying it with all the other fellow sim racers. There you go. Mario Kart with the Wii remote wheel is also a great place to start. Not quite the same mechanics. You don't quite have the blue shells, the red shells, the banana peels, unless you are in the West Coast Wednesday GT3 League and you are Professor Chronotis and you have a blue shelled Ferrari livery, in which case that Mario strategy might come into play. We got the season finale of that tomorrow at Kailami, so if you like some ACC GT3 action, make sure to tune in tomorrow. Late night, 11 p.m. Eastern time is that start time. Andre Lloyd getting closer and closer by the lap, but it looks like the Porsche has a really good advantage in that final sector, pulling the gap just a little bit more than what it was. I want custom liveries for LMU. I agree. That would be super fun to see, and hopefully they make it pretty accessible. I've heard for now you have to, it's kind of hidden behind a paywall, so hopefully they'll make it at least able for people to just see it, rather than having to, you know, create one. Not quite sure how that system will work. We'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out. Paywall equals gross. I 100% agree with that, but nonetheless, nothing we can do about it, as the game is still in early access, so it is quite nice that we're able to enjoy as much as we do here with Le Mans Ultimate, with how much the game is in early access, whether it be these long race servers that we're able to host with the multi-class events, and same with their cameras and broadcasting software. It is just like the WEC with the timing charts on the left-hand side. So super fun to be able to use that. I agree, yeah, the early accesses should really be in quotes when you say it, because it has been out for like, what, about a year and a half now? But nonetheless, they are constantly improving the game, constantly updating, constantly working on stuff in the background. Lots of DLCs coming in the works as well from the Lamborghini GT3s that were mentioned earlier in the chat as well. As a Warframe player, was in early access for like 7 years. That's funny. Yeah, hopefully this, I mean, what does early access really mean? You know, like it just means that the game's not complete, and then you get to help kind of grow the game and hope to see where it goes. It's always fun to see where games go from early access. And as I said earlier, ACC just started out in early access with the Nürburgring Grand Prix track and the Huracan ST, and that was it. And it grew into the game we all know and love today for sim racing, being able to host 24-hour events around world famous tracks like Spa or Monza, with driver swaps being added to that as well. Hopefully we'll see that in the works as well in Le Mans Ultimate. To be fair, they don't really have that many options for additional content. Yeah, that is fair. Yeah, I mean, there is the potential maybe of spreading out into IMSA, but that's a big stretch in a whole other category of its own to try to deal with. But yeah, it seems like for the majority of LMU, they have released a lot of the tracks that have been run on the WEC calendar traditionally, and now it's just a matter of updating it year by year. Of course, this year, the Cadillacs are run by the Hertz team Jota. The Mercedes were added to the GT3 field as well as a new competitor, or a new manufacturer, I should say. And then in the coming years, we should see Hyundai entering one of their cars as a hypercar entry, and the Aston Martin Valkyries also added recently into the hypercar. So it is a really growing sport in the WEC. Super fun racing experience. I was lucky enough to be able to go last year to the 6 hours that they had at COTA, and that was a really fun experience, sitting out in the heat in the late summer, early fall, just watching the hypercars, enjoying all the action out on the track. And it is such a joy in those long endurance events as well. Lots of accessibility as well. You were able to kind of hop around the grandstands and kind of enjoy the race from many different perspectives, whether it be the main grandstand looking into turn one. There was one at the end of the long straight, but that's COTA. This is Le Mans. Andre Lloyd trying to close that gap ever so slightly, and George Elmer out from the lead has dropped back to third place. So this battle between Cruz and Lloyd is now for the lead of the GT3 category. Boy, I wonder what happened to George Elmer there. Oh, he had to complete another pit stop. Maybe just not calculated enough fuel for the final stint, and George Elmer having to come into the pits again. But nonetheless, he is out on track at the moment in that final podium position. But Andre Lloyd has a really good chance here of sneaking through Gelson Cruz to take the lead of the GT3 category. Porsche taking the defensive line to the inside, but the Ferrari's not quite close enough to shape up a move yet. Not diving to the inside, the brakes glowing red hot on the Ferrari. Cruz trying desperately to hold on to that position. He has no help in front, while Andre Lloyd has all of the slipstream to himself from the Porsche in front, and he will look to capitalize on that as quickly as he can. The time winding down in the race, less than 2 minutes to go. Who will come out on top in the GT3s? Will it be the Ferrari of Lloyd? Will it be the Porsche of Cruz? Hypercar traffic approaching. Oh, Jace Wright spinning it on the exit of Mulsanne, the rear end hitting the wall, and hopefully avoiding too much damage on that 83 hypercar to continue on, as the checkered flag will soon be out. Alex Hansen, next time indeed, my friend. It's a tricky sim to get right. Hopefully you enjoy the laps that you did have here, as Jace Wright, not looking to get involved in the battle here, wants to get through this GT3 traffic as quickly as possible, but also doesn't want Andre Lloyd to suffer any bit of gap to the Porsche in front. This will probably be the best opportunity for the hypercar to get both of them, as he is wiggling around before the Porsche curves, getting through the battling pack of the GT3s. Cruz out in front for the time being. Can he maintain the race lead in the GT3s, or will Andre Lloyd in the 55 Vista AF Corsa have anything to change about that? The timer will hit 0. Chris Barnes dictates when the race ends, though, and he is going down the Mulsanne straight. So Gelson Cruz and Andre Lloyd have one more lap after they cross the checkered flag to settle their battle. Andre Lloyd flashing away, trying to distract the Porsche in front, but perhaps getting a bit distracted himself, as the Ferrari still has one lap to go, my friend. There is still racing. We're not done yet. Just because the time hit 0 doesn't mean the checkered flag is out. The overall race leader dictates when the race ends. So that is Chris Barnes currently going through the 3rd sector in the number 12 Hertz Team Jota Porsche. Approaching Indianapolis here. Let's ride on board with the number 12 for his closing lap here around Le Mans to close out the spring season on Tuesdays. Really looking forward to what's to come in the summer. Already great participation in the first couple of championships on Tuesdays. We'll look to fill up that hypercar field. Does Le Mans only have 3 sectors? It does. So the first sector is from the start-finish line to Tete Rouge before the start of the Mulsanne Straight. The second sector is the entirety of the Mulsanne Straight all the way through the Mulsanne Corner, and then sector 3 is from the Mulsanne Corner all the way down to the start-finish line, where Chris Barnes is approaching now for the overall lead of, or the overall win, I should say, in his Porsche 963 hypercar. Checkered flag is out. Chris Barnes takes the win in round 5 at Le Mans. Congratulations, Chris. Well managed there, my friend, on those medium tires as well. He goes back to the pits to celebrate with the team. Gelson Cruz looking to make it 2 Porsches out in front of both categories. The 963 finishing on top of the hypercars. Can the 911 do the same? Needs to defend from Andre Lloyd behind. George Elmer in the distance. They're having to take an additional pit stop at the end. Brakes are glowing red hot on both of these machines. The Ferrari kicking up some dust on the exit. And here we go. One of the last slipstream advantages for Andre Lloyd. Both Ferraris absolutely sending it in all the wrong ways. Yeah, a bit of a messy race from all the Ferraris. Chris Barnes, very clean, very well managed from him out in front. Never put a foot wrong in that Porsche. But Gelson Cruz here looking to take the race win in the GT3s. Has Andre Lloyd within a second behind. Just needs to come to the line without any major incidents here. Just the quick Porsche curves and the Corvette curves, followed by the braking zones at the Ford chicanes. Gelson Cruz pulling that gap just a little bit away. Got it out at the worst time. Sorry to hear, my friend. Jace Wright will take the checkered flag in the 83 in second place. Jake Terrell also taking the checkered flag in third place in the 51 hypercar. Let's go back to this battle for the lead of the GT3s. Going through the Porsche curves, Gelson Cruz negotiating the first part just fine, running wide on the Corvette curves, trying to carry as much speed as he can. Is this the move for Andre Lloyd? He's shaping up a move. He's trying to pick a direction. Cruz covering off the line very well through the first part. He has the track position for the time being. Is he gonna get a good exit out of the final corner? It looks like he does. Gelson Cruz takes the race win of the GT3s. Andre Lloyd half a second behind. Great racing from the pair, finishing on the top row, or finishing on the top step of the podium. George Elmer crosses the line in third, the first of the Fords across the line. Javier Gomez Beira closing that gap towards the end of the race there in his Aston Martin, the D station, across the line in fourth place. Now, one Bigley, bit further down the track here, is good friend of the program, one Bigley. Good race indeed. Yeah, that was fun from the GT3s. Jace Wright and Jake Terrell had some epic battles in the hypercars at the beginning before perhaps a fuel issue struck for Jake Terrell, where Wright had to push his Ferrari teammate back to the pits, but good sportsmanship shown from Jace Wright doing that for the number 51 Ferrari. One Bigley in fifth place for the time being. Robert Almeida did cross the line in sixth place. Alex Hansen, DNF, in seventh. Spencer Brown, fourth in the hypercar category, 11th overall. And Luciano Ichazzo, unfortunately, also with the DNF as well. One Bigley across the line to take fifth place in the GT3s. There we see the hypercars. Chris Barnes, Jace Wright, Jake Terrell, Spencer Brown, the order of the finishers. Cruz able to take the race win from Lloyd. And then it looks like Gomez Beira slid into the podium as George Elmer dropped back to fifth. One Bigley advances to fourth. Almeida in sixth. Hansen and Ichazzo, unfortunately, with those DNFs there. Take it back to our studio here. We would like to invite our podium sitters to join us in the green room from both classes for a quick chat, just to see what your guys' experience of Le Mans Ultimate is so far. Pull in our hypercar podium sitters. What's up, friends? How is it going?
Oh shit.
It's definitely going.
Yeah, how was that race? How was that race for you guys there at the end? Or at the beginning, I should say. The beginning was pretty action packed between you two. It kind of closed off at the end there. Did you run out of fuel there, Jake?
Yeah, I kind of ran out of fuel in the first stint, and then Jason and we were kind of working together a little bit, so he pushed me to the pits, and I told Jace before the race started, I was like, if I die anywhere, it's going to be the beginning of the Porsche curves. And I very much so died at the beginning of the Porsche curves. Yeah, so that's pretty much how my race went, sitting in the pits. A lot of fun.
Yep, sounds about right. Jace Wright, how about you? How's your experience been so far of Le Mans Ultimate?
It's all right. You know, the hypercars are pretty fun compared to GT3s. So it was tonight was a very funny race. working with Jake.
Yeah. The first stint working together with them, it was like all good and chill, and then we were starting the last lap, and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it, brother. And I was like, I have 2 liters coming on to the back straight before Indianapolis, and he's like, yeah, that sounds kind of rough, because he was like at like 5 liters or so of fuel, and I was like, I'm trying to save as much as I could, and then I ran out before the Porsche curves, and that's when he pushed me. So
Yeah, that'll happen in the hypercars. They're pretty difficult to manage as well, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from some of the GT3 drivers as well. What is it like for you guys managing the GT3 traffic as you go through Le Mans?
At
Honestly,
least,
it wasn't too bad tonight. I didn't
yeah,
catch any bad traffic really.
yeah, it wasn't
That's
that
good.
bad. On like the last lap or second to last lap, I tried to help Andre Lloyd, but he kind of moved out of the way when I wanted to push him.
Oh yeah, I did see that. That was kind of funny to see the Ferraris helping the Ferraris in the different classes.
Yeah, the
Senor
traffic tonight
Fuzio,
wasn't good.
where can I catch the stream?
The stream is on Twitch, my friend.
Okay, what is the...
It's twitch.tv/Trackalicious.
Okay.
That is where all the streaming action happens. And one bigly hydrate. Thank you so much, friend. Cheers to that. Yeah,
Bro,
what do you
so
guys
are
look?
Eric?
What's that?
You are Eric?
I am Kuja Terekov.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yep. Eric's the league admin. He does commentary a few nights a week as well. But yeah, just trying out Le Mans Ultimate, seeing how everything works, and seems to work pretty well so far. Hope you guys enjoyed it from the streaming perspective as well. And yeah, hopefully we'll fill up that hypercar grid for the summer season. Are you guys going to be coming back at all?
Yeah, but in context of race car terms, I'm definitely signing a contract with a different manufacturer because Ferrari has not been treating me well.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's always fun to mix it up too. The hypercars do behave completely different as well. So yeah, always fun to change it up. So yeah, very excited to see what sort of future the game holds and the championships here at Trackalicious. So yeah, thanks guys for participating. Thanks for joining the interviews real quick as well. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys on track in the next season.
Thank you for having us, and thanks
Okay.
for putting on a show for
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for streaming.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Super fun to do it. Super fun. I love watching multi-class action. Le Mans Ultimate, one of the premier places to do that. The hypercar and the GT3s as well. So yeah, it's been really fun being able to learn the game as well between the different kinds of hypercars there are too, and how the battery management is done in those cars. And yeah, big thanks to all the chat for providing a bit of insight to us as well throughout the race here. It's been super fun to have you guys following along as basically a second commentator. And yeah, we really appreciate that from you guys. And let's end the stream with a fun little raid to another sim racing community. Let's see what we've got going on here this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed the action here in this kind of small, slightly limited grid in the Le Mans Ultimate Championship, but nonetheless, always fun for us to follow along and learn kind of how the game works. So it's kind of good that it's a slightly smaller field than that. We get to learn the software a little bit better from our commentators' perspective, and for you guys, certainly hopefully provide a better show in the long run. Before we get to that, oh sorry, just kidding. Let's get to that. Let's get to that raid real quick. Let's see who we've got racing here. iRacing seeming the more popular choice of sim in the recent times, but nonetheless, sim racing is super fun between all the different sims, whether it be Assetto Corsa Evo, the new one had a recent update as well, so lots to look forward to in the sim racing community from ACC. Still hosting plenty of great events. Le Mans Ultimate, like we saw tonight. And yeah, it's been super fun learning the game, learning how everything works, so Very, very excited for what the future of Le Mans Ultimate holds. And yeah, that is going to conclude the championship here in the spring at Le Mans Ultimate. Lots to look forward to in the summer. To keep up to date with all the latest news, the best place to do that is the Trackalicious Discord, !Discord in the chat for a link to join that, to keep up to date with all of the summer season announcements that will be going on, I am sure, in due time. Thank you everybody for watching along. One bigly for the donation early on. Alex K Racing Fire, one bigly fire. And yeah, super fun to stream it for you guys. Glad you guys are enjoying it and following along with us for the Le Mans Ultimate. That is going to be it for us at Trackalicious this evening. We're going to raid a guy called Short Fused, doing some oval racing in iRacing, I should say. So stick around. He will have some fun racing for us in iRacing. Make sure to say Trackalicious sent ya. And yeah, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be joining us from. Hope you enjoyed the stream and hope you have a good rest of your day or night. And yeah, we'll catch you next time.